I'm not gonna lie, it was not until after the movie was done and I was going to read stuff about it that I realized this film was about the writer Shirley Jackson, like the real life writer Shirley Jackson. Now, I would like to believe that is due to my own ignorance and lack of information, but if I went an entire film where the main character was famous writer Shirley Jackson, and I did not know that the movie was famous writer Shirley Jackson, I think there is equal fault on both parts here. Hello everybody, welcome to Film Fireside. Shirley came out on VOD a while ago. I missed the opening date of it, but it's fine, it's no big deal. This was at the Sundance Film Festival this past January. I haven't heard a lot of buzz about it. I think for the most part, I think was fairly mixed. I've heard more about other films from the Sundance Film Festival. I didn't really hear much about Shirley. And if I did, I probably forgot it. So, whatevs. This film has been getting a lot of critical acclaim. Well, that's debatable. This film has been getting some critical acclaim. Has like an 88% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is great. This is kind of one of the first films I think that the critics and most people seem to like more than I did. So I'm going to be kind of an odd man out here. But I say that, and at the same time, in other places it has kind of a lower rating, like on IMDb, it has like a 6.1, which is really low. But also that may be due to the fact that not many people have seen it. I don't know. This was just an interesting movie. Like I mentioned in the opening, it's about famous writer Shirley Jackson. It is kind of a biopic. I think maybe that's part of the reason I was confused, is because the way the story is structured is I don't think this was intended to be like a biopic of Shirley Jackson as like, in the way like Judy was a biopic of Judy Garland this last year, the one that Renee Zellweger won the Oscar for. So in my defense, I wasn't expecting this to be about a real person. I may have just been distracted or something with this movie, but I felt lost by this film just the entire time. Now granted, I applaud this film. There are some fantastic elements within this film. Like the filmmaking in and of itself is technically good and well executed. Elizabeth Moss's performance is technically good, meaning like she didn't do anything wrong per se, but it seemed like all these elements kind of are on their own page and weren't really blended to make a cohesive narrative that was intended to accomplish anything other than this is supposed to be good, this is supposed to be good, and this is supposed to be good. All those elements were technically good, but they didn't really flow together to meet an end goal or a purpose. And again, to a certain extent, I applaud the filmmakers for not wanting to spoon feed and wanting us to be a very like open to interpretation movie. Without spoiling, I think there are some elements of like, is this real or isn't it real? I think. But that's the thing that that's a good example. My uncertainty of the point of what they were trying to accomplish or what they were trying to do or go for is maybe some of the problems I have. And I have a hard time saying that, especially with the way I view movies, because whenever someone says that to me about like, I don't know, like a Coen Brothers movie, what they're like, oh, well, like I didn't get it. Because Coen Brothers are pretty like subtle. They're pretty like, this is our film, this is our movie, interpret it how you will. They're very subtle with their films as well. So I don't want to criticize the subtlety of the film. I really enjoyed that, really appreciate that. But it seemed the goal was subtlety for subtlety's sake. And the filmmakers were very uninterested in even like an audience reaction. You know what I mean? So I'm having a hard time because like, again, like I said, like things are like technically good, but there was just like an element missing where like things just weren't flowing. And this is just for me. But this film is actually making me think of, this is a very indie, not honestly, the people who watch my channel probably all 12 of you probably haven't seen this movie. In Fabric from last year kind of gave me the same feel that movie did, where things about that film were like good, they weren't bad, but I just didn't like it. And again, maybe it's just because I don't get it, and I hate to just like slap a bad score on a movie and just shout, I don't get it! Because that's dumb. It's on me, you know, more or less to put a little more work in if I want to. But that's kind of the other thing too, is there's nothing about this film that makes me want to. I actually thought about, because I watched it 2 nights ago, I actually thought about maybe I'll watch it again tonight before I make this movie, kind of freshen up on some things and maybe get a better understanding and feel for it. But the thought of that just felt like a chore. And I don't want, you know, I never want a film to feel like a chore to watch. I don't want it to be like, yeah, I don't know. And the idea of like watching that again, the fact that it felt like that was so exhausting. I don't want to do that again. That's something I kind of have wrong with this film already. So I'm kind of doing this, I'm mentioning bad things first. And then one other thing I'll mention, which is more or less the same critique. I just had the main critique of there isn't much of a point. And not that there has to be a point, but the filmmakers seemed very uninterested in having some type of interpretation. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm having a hard time because I'm hearing a lot of people being like, you just missed the point. And I don't know if, I mean, absolutely. There's an interpretation. There's a theme. There's more to the story that perhaps I missed. And I'm open to agree with that statement. However, I've watched movies where I'm like, oh, I think I missed the point, but I know it's there and I really like it. I think perhaps I missed the point. I know there could be a point and I don't want to know. I don't really like it. I don't care to figure that out, if that makes sense. One of the elements that just contributed to this, that, like I'm saying, I think the editing was just really like weird and choppy. And I'm talking not like the craft of editing, like the editors of the film made things flow fine. Well, kind of. I don't know. That's the thing though. But like, it seemed more like a choice to make the editing the way it was, but it didn't work for me because it wasn't like mistakes. There weren't errors in the editing, but the editing choices in and of themselves were choppy and bizarre. They were choices intended to kind of abrupt you, which is like a good choice. However, it didn't really work for me. It just made me feel like confused and uninvited to the story. It just was like, all right, we're doing weird stuff to make you feel weird. And that's what this movie is. So after only so much of that can just makes me go like, all right, I don't really, if you're not going to invite me into the story, then I guess I'll just sit back and be weirded out the whole time. You know what I mean? That seemed like one of their only goals, which, see, I don't know. And it's hard to say because I wasn't a part of this filmmaking process. There may be more elements that I'm not aware of. You know what I mean? Honestly, back to the editing, there's so many instances within the film, I just kept going, oh, so we're doing this now. Okay. So, yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't my favorite. It just didn't hit me the way I wanted it to. Now, the questions I asked myself, of course, is, do I see other people liking this more than I did? Absolutely. I can totally see you watching this movie and being like, whoa, that just blew me away. It was really powerful and interesting, and it caused me to think about yada, 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 yada. It didn't do that for me. It didn't really cause me to think of anything. I was just confused the whole time, and I don't know. Yeah, I was just weirded out the whole time. So for me, it definitely didn't work, but I can totally see it working like really well for other people. So go watch it. Absolutely go watch it. Let me know what you think about it. Am I glad that I watched it? I guess. I mean, sure. We'll say yes. We'll say, yeah, I'm glad I watched it, I guess. As far as elements I liked, I really got hooked in at like the end of the film. I don't spoil it. It's hard to like, this film's kind of weird because they're really, I think that's the other thing too, and maybe this is just something I'm not used to. It didn't really have a structure. Like, I didn't really feel like there was an inciting incident, nor a goal of any of the main characters. There was kind of goals and things they wanted, but they weren't really like the forefront, or like there wasn't really a purpose to those goals. And I didn't feel the need to care about whether any of the characters accomplished those goals. So there's that as well. So like the end of the film felt kind of like a climax and a resolution, but like I didn't really feel like that was the main plot of the movie the entire time, what's happening. It kind of is, because it's like what's happening the whole time, but like there's just so much other weird stuff going on that I kind of feel like what's happening here is beside the point, you know? Honestly, I wonder if this film was just meant to showcase how weird Shirley Jackson is, or how weird Shirley Jackson was. And if that's the case, like, whoop-de-doo, you did it. You know what I mean? Because she's a weirdo. Like, that was her, and her husband too. Their dynamic, their relationship is really interesting and bizarre. But anyway, the end of the film, I really like the end of the film. I feel like that was like one of the only moments where I was like, just hooked in to this like really, really long shot, just still shot of Elizabeth Moss having a conversation with her husband. And like, I was like, that was the moment I was like, okay, I think this film was better than I realized. Maybe I just missed some things, you know? Well, let's get into some more of the likes of this film. I really enjoyed the performances. I really did. I mentioned this about Elizabeth Moss's performance, that it was technically good, and that is correct. There are some choices that were like odd and weird, but those weren't bad in and of themselves. Did they work for what was going on? I don't know. And this has been more of like the weird art housey moments is what I'm talking about more. However, her relationship with her husband, her relationship with the other characters, very solid, very established. All of the actors, the main 4 actors in this film are very, very well established. Their characters really well thought out. I felt they were fighting for things, even though the script didn't make it very clear what everyone's motives were exactly, other than just being there. Their performances led me to believe there was more they were fighting for, and they really brought a lot to the table. So everyone's performances in this were just great. I really enjoyed it. My score of the film, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. Wow! Like I said, you might like Shirley more than I did, so go check it out. Let me know what you think about it. I'd love to just have the comments flooded with why this review is stupid and why the movie is good. Because, you know, I'd like to give it another chance eventually, but as I said earlier, right now, it just feels like a chore to me. But let me know in the comments what you thought of this movie. Thank you so much for watching this review. If you'd like to see more reviews, subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell to be notified when I upload more videos. I do that at least once a week, so stay tuned for that. And if you don't want to miss out, make sure you click the notification icon and subscribe so you can be notified when I post a new video. Please subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate it. Please give this video a like. It does nothing but help the channel out, and I really appreciate it. If you would do that, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Comment, like, subscribe. Bye-bye.